Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of podcast. I wish and I'm sure you will enjoy listening to the broadcast.
What is the biggest difference between rice and wheat?
Okay, as I have told you, the four major carbohydrate components produced. The fifth one is also there, which is oats. We are not going into it. One is wheat, rice, milk, and sugar. So wheat is the largest carbohydrate grain food produced in the world. Almost many countries are producing wheat in the world. You need to have the geographical soil condition and the weather conditions for it. Nearly about 750 million metric ton of wheat is produced all over the world. Really satisfy about close to 20% of the human food need. So if you take the entire world population of more than 700 crores, you can find nearly more than 90% of our population, of the world population, will be consuming wheat in some form or the other, little bit in a day. Because you understand the, all kinds of bakery products like bread is a staple food in many parts of the world. Even your neighboring island country, Sri Lanka, you take, bread is the predominant breakfast, most of the population there. They have only about 26 million population, but bread is their predominant breakfast. Yeah, you have bun, you have all kinds of cakes, all kinds of bakery products, and you have biscuits. Then you have your fast foods, then you have your pastas, then you have your pizzas. All are wheat based. Wheat is one of the largest carbohydrate grain food produced in the world. That's the highest. And it is the most preferred food in most of the countries. We have innumerable number of Indian breads. We have puris, we have rotis, we have parathas, we have naan, we have bhaturas. You can bhakris in various forms. We have our Indian bread. That becomes a staple food. So wheat is almost the most inevitable part of food and nutrition for the entire humanity. There is no doubt whatsoever.
Sure. So what's the difference between wheat and rice?
Rice is something which is, if you take the agricultural cultivation, there is a unique difference there. Rice, as it's taken up paddy for germination, till the end, they replant after germination, till the end, the rice plantation has to be standing in the water, 5-6 inches of water throughout. At the end, when it is ready for maybe 20-25 days ready for harvest, then they start reducing the water, making the field dry. They don't feed any more water, so slowly, in 20-25 days, it becomes, there's no water, it will only be wet. But wheat is not like that. Wheat does not need water to stand on the field. They need only wet field, that's all. They don't need the water to be stagnant there. So this is the two major difference between rice and wheat. But rice and wheat are the same. They are linear chain of glucose. Only thing, rice doesn't have gluten, wheat has gluten. So wheat has a thick skin. So unlike rice, it has the husk which has to be removed. In wheat, it is not possible, not necessary. Otherwise, rice and wheat are the same. There is no difference. So the glucose component is the same. Only thing, they have little more fiber, wheat, and it has that gluten part of it in the endosperm. But both the food, in terms of glucose levels, are the same. There is no great difference there with respect to the amount of glucose built inside as a polysaccharide starch material.
So that's going to be a revelation to most of our listeners, because we always come to wheat as an option for rice or a better option for rice. But we'll look into that a little later. Let's look at the difference between rava, maida and wheat atta. So is there a difference?
There's a lot of people who know the word rava, who know the word maida, who know the word atta. You can go to a shop today, you can ask for rava, wheat rava is sold, maida is sold separately, These are all, commercialism and consumerism. So, made the industrialization in a big way. So, initially, it was all in a different format. Today also people use, if you take most of the conventional North Indian family, they use whole grain wheat sent to flour mill and powdered, and they use whole grain wheat flour. So when the industrialization started way back, maybe early last century, they came out with machines, for food processing, because food slowly moved to industry in a big way with respect to commercialism. At that time, they came out with machines. These machines are huge. They are very long. So there's a hopper there. In that they put the wheat. It will be processing in tons. They'll be keep on pouring bags after bags after bag. So it comes in a conveyor belt. At that point, it gets heated up a little. It gets warmed up, the grain. So this machine has got 3 chambers. In the first chamber, it comes, the wheat. You take a wheat like this, it is exactly broken into 2 parts.
Diquartite it is.
Yeah, 2 parts. In the center of the wheat, there is a stem, which is harder material, which represents 11% of the grain.
Okay.
If suppose your single wheat grain is around 100 mg, for example, so 11 mg will be the stem. The stem is removed in that machinery process, broken and thrown out.
Okay.
That's rava.
Okay.
Now, 2/2 it is broken, the stem is removed. So balance 89%, that is 89 mg, 44.5 mg of these 2 fellows will move to the next chamber, the second chamber. In that, 20% of the flesh of the inner side of these 2 fellows is shaved and taken.
Okay.
Powdered and thrown out is maida, where there is no fiber there.
There's no fiber, right?
So the balance 49% is a little bit of flesh and the skin, the thick skin, comes to the third part of the machine, where it is just grounded and thrown out, which is atta. This is how the machinery process done. So the rava, what you buy, is produced like this. The maida is the inner portion of the grain flesh, 20% from either side. It's fully powdered. It's maida.
Okay.
This is how what you get from the market is produced with the help of the machines.
Very, very interesting. So one little question. I mean, the stem that you spoke about, the 11% of the wheat, the center, which will probably germinate. That's a part I'm assuming that would germinate into a new wheat plant, which rava is made out of. Is it healthy? Is it healthier than the rest of the wheat grain, or?
No, rava has cool. Rava is good. No harm in eating rava. Rava is a good food. Okay. We are not going to talk about the endosperm of the seed, wheat grain as a seed and all that stuff. We don't go into that science part of it. We stick only to the food and nutrition. So, rava is good enough. Maida is the one which has no fiber, nothing. It's a fine powder. That is the one which is not good for our GI, that is gastroenteritis. Atta is okay, but then atta has no much of nutrition. It's more of the skin and little bit of the flesh. But if you want to really benefit the wheat food, is the whole grain grounded into flour, where rava, maida, atta is involved. Well, it doesn't harm you. It is a better food.
Okay.
Yeah.
And coming back, so you had spoken about gluten being the main difference between rice and wheat. What is gluten? I mean, it's such a commonly used word. We maybe about 10 or 15 years back, nobody knew about gluten intolerance in India. It wasn't spoken about so much. It's become a big, almost a buzzword now. People are gluten intolerant, or you don't know if you're gluten intolerant, but you should not have gluten. So what is this monster called gluten?
Gluten is a component which is a protein in the wheat, which is not found in rice, corn, and all that. It's found in wheat, rye, RYE. There's another grain, and all those things. Even in oats, it's not there. So there are more than 100 different proteins make a gluten, which is a part of the endosperm of the seed. Wheat is nothing other than the plant producing a seed, which we take it as a grain for our food. The same wheat is, processed as seed, taken for germination. So at that time, it helps the germination. Wheat is, gluten is a part of the wheat, and that is the one which gives you that elasticity, So the rubbery stuff. Yeah, it is divided into two parts, like gliadin and glutenin. So gluten is of four types: the alpha, beta, gamma, and omega. 4 different types of glutens are there in the wheat. So they all have a higher molar mass, the molecular weight.
Okay.
So it's 592, 596, 599, and 599, which is not easy for us, even though it can be absorbed by the intestines. Breaking down of gluten becomes difficult, because anything less than 200 is easy, and anything beyond 200 is almost 600. So what is gluten allergy? Gluten allergy was ever there. Ever since humanity was there, ever since grain food of wheat is there, ever since we were eating. Gluten allergy is just found recently, maybe in the last 10, 15 years or 20 years, not beyond that. What is gluten allergy is nothing other than as we eat wheat-based food in the stomach, so it's called the gut area. If there is a leak in the gut, the gluten gets absorbed.
Okay.
Goes straight to the bloodstream. So our system is built in such a way that the stomach grinds the food, doesn't leak anything out to the bloodstreams. Grind the food into pulp, and then it goes to the intestines. At the lumen, whatever needed is absorbed, and then it goes to the liver through the portal vein, and liver has to scan and send things out. But if you have a leaky gut, then the gluten goes into the blood, which creates a problem for us in pathology. So this is what is called gluten allergy, which is because of the present day, too much of modernization, too much of processing of food, too much of oleoresins, and too much of the seasonings, and so many preservatives, chemicals, all coming. People have lost the strength of the gut. Quite a major percentage of population have started developing this leaky gut, and then where you become allergic to gluten. So they are moved in for gluten-free wheat. So that's not going to help you much at all. We are not addressing the leaky gut.
Absolutely, addressing only one small problem. I'm sure the leaky gut, anything acidic, etc., will anyway is going to trouble the gut.
Yeah, right? there are food which I have seen in the market. You can go abroad and all see. Gluten-rich food is also there. It's very rubbery, and the kids enjoy it. Yeah. So gluten is a part of wheat. There is no harm in eating wheat. Wheat is a good food what nature has given to us. It's a part of it. I would prefer the whole grain wheat flour. It's always better.
Yeah, ground, the whole grain ground, rather than buying a packeted wheat flour where half the nutrition is probably taken out of.
We don't know what else they're adding.
True, yeah.
If you take a soap, there are fillers.
Right.
The whole thing is not the real soap. There are fillers. We don't know what these fillers are.
True.
But you scrape it on your skin day in and day out.
Yeah.
Likewise, when you get a packet, we don't know what else they are filling there.
True.
We don't know. We are not scientists to go and test them in the lab. And even if you go to the lab today, there are too many things I don't want to talk to you.
Okay. Okay, so when we talk about wheat, there's a huge understanding that people who have diabetics, wheat is much better for them than rice, and they are supposed to stop rice. But of course, statistics also says that the highest percentage of diabetic people are in northern India, which mostly eats wheat. So there's a contradiction, and I'd love that you could shed some light on that. Is it really better?
I feel like laughing, in the modern science we have different branches. It's just such a lovely thing, the science. You and me are sitting here, we are based on science. There's so many cameras around us, the mics around us, the lights around us.
Yeah.
All these, whatever is a part is a science, like the shirt, that the clothes which we are wearing, it's all from the power looms, and everything is science today. Science has a branch of food and nutrition which studied everything vividly, elaborately, going in deeper and deeper into details. There's always a difference between the ancient science and the modern science. Ancient science is a holistic approach.
Right. It's very in tune
As a
with
wholesome, they study that. They don't go into minute details at all.
Absolutely,
They don't need. We don't need such minute details. But it's always interesting to see the minute details. What the modern science have done.
Right.
For better understanding. But then it doesn't lead us to anywhere, in the sense, even though we know the principles of the food and nutrition, the biochemistry part of it, the metabolism part of it, the glucose metabolism, the imbalance of the glucose metabolism, we know everything. I don't know from where, who came with the concept of equating wheat to rice. For so many years I've been seeing diabetic patients have been advised to eat wheat food. There's one small truth there. When you eat rice food, you feel hungry very fast.
Okay.
Because you cook the grain and eat. You don't powder the grain and eat in rice. When you cook wheat, we cook the powder. Right?
Right, yeah.
We don't take the wheat and boil it. Yeah, we break wheat into rava, the whole wheat into crystals.
Right.
You can see this in, I've seen this in Haryana and all, that they make upma and all out of it.
Dalia.
Yeah, so that is okay. But mostly we powder the stuff and eat. When you eat wheat, it takes a longer time for digestion. When you eat rice, it takes shorter time for digestion.
Right.
Maybe that's one of the reason, so that people don't feel hungry, so that they don't eat frequently.
They don't eat frequently.
But as far as the glucose component is concerned, both are the same. It has no difference whatsoever. And suddenly I've been seeing in the last few years, everybody started talking about wheat and rice are the same, including the medical faculties. The problem with the medical faculties is a doctor who gets qualified into medicine or whatever, basic medicine or specialization and things like that, and he is not a part of food and nutrition. He does study food and nutrition.
Yes.
So there's always a food and nutrition come as a paramedical.
Right.
It's an attached unit to his diagnostic area and treatment area and all that. So the food and nutrition experts, the doctor will write and say, please go to the food and nutrition department. They'll be able to guide you. Where they were guiding to eat meat as better stuff for your diabetic conditions, which is not correct.
Which is not right.
No.
Okay. We've seen in our last episode when we spoke about rice, about carbohydrates themselves not being bad for diabetics, right, sir? So there's no really difference that
No,
we should
see,
stop.
whether you are diabetic or not diabetic, you are a human being, right? Are you not going to be a human being if you are diabetic declared?
No.
Correct?
Right.
I am diabetic and you are non-diabetic. Both of us are human beings, no?
Right.
So both of us are built with 100 trillion cells. All the 100 trillion cells need the carbohydrate.
Carbohydrates, right.
And in that, I've told you, the brain consumes 75% of the carbohydrate,
That's
glucose, which comes into our blood.
Right. Corroborating with what you said, is that carbohydrate is needed, and it's not the question that you should not eat rice or you should eat wheat. Any which ways you need carbohydrates.
No, both rice and wheat are carbohydrate-rich food.
Yes, absolutely.
So whether you eat rice or wheat, it's the same. One and the same.
Thing. Exactly. So there's no really difference if you're going to stop rice and eat wheat. You're anyway eating a carbohydrate which has the same glucose composition that rice has.
Yes, one difference between rice and wheat is in wheat, retrogradation is very high. In rice, retrogradation is lesser. If you are going to fresh cooked food is eaten. Like if you take biscuits, if you take rusk, if you take cakes, buns, breads, all are made industrially, in a bakery, in an oven and things like that. By the time you go by, you bought what is made in the morning for your next day morning breakfast. So it's cooked and cooled. Right? You may heat it up again, that's a different issue altogether. The first time it's cooked, it's cooled.
It's cooled, yeah.
So the cooked and cooled makes resistant starch higher. So that's called retrogradation.
I see.
So the lumen of the intestines, the glucose components are not broken into monomers. Any single molecule only the intestines will pick up. Any disaccharide also it will not pick up.
It will not pick up.
So retrogradation leads to a lot of resistant starch, which will all get passed away. So when they become chemically modified starch in the colon, as they reach the colon, it becomes chemically modified starch, which is called the short chain fatty acids, which is too much of science for the people. I'm just telling you, which is not good for us. So that's the difference between the food which is cooked, which is eaten after a long time, which happens more so in wheat.
Which happens more in wheat. So
yeah, we don't use rice to make bread and bun and all kinds of pastas, pizza bases and all that stuff. True. We don't know when it was made.
So eating wheat is perfectly beneficial as long as you're not really eating too much of wheat that's cooked in terms of bread or biscuits.
Yeah, too much of, see, if you make pastas, if you take the processed noodles, they use a lot of glucomate. There is your Ajinomoto, monosodium glucomate, which is not good for us. And then they are all pre-cooked and then dehydrated, and again, it's more of maida is used. It's not good.
Okay. So what's the best way to eat wheat? How do we handle wheat? Or what is the best way that one should consume
No,
wheat?
our North Indian villages, they handle things better. They don't go for your pizzas and they don't go for your pastas and all that. They all, if you see, even metro cities like Delhi, Lucknow and all these areas, all the urbanized population also, they buy good quality wheat, they send it to a flour mill, grind it, they add certain things, some fenugreek and all that stuff, I've seen. I don't know what is the combination, but they add. And then they, little bit, so they ground for a monthly ration, like in a month I need so much, I spend 15 kilos. At 15 kilos I send it to a flour mill and grind it and, keep it tight in a container. Then I start taking it up for my basic rotis for the day. Yeah, that's the best way of handling it. That is,
yeah. And for those who don't know, the food cooked like that, or the chapatis or the rotis cooked like that, are much tastier than the one that you.
Oh, definitely, yes.
I do follow that, so I would know.
Yeah. So if you take the Gujarati bakaris, they add a little bit of ajwain and all that stuff, which normally they have it in the night. It's so good.
Yeah. Easy to digest.
Yes. Ajwain makes a lot of difference. Yes. Right. It helps your digestion.
So that's the best way to eat wheat, rather than have it packaged food like breads and biscuits or buns, which are pre-cooked and cooled. It's better to eat wheat that's been freshly ground.
Yeah, suppose you're going somewhere and you don't have anything to eat, you can always buy a packet of biscuits and eat. Don't eat too much of them.
Not too much of them.
When you're left without any choice, survival, yes, you can, you will. There is no harm. But then feeding children with too much of biscuits is not good, because maida leads to a lot of constipation.
Right. Yeah, we'll see that a little.
Most of your pathological problems are, one of the major reason is constipation, because these short chain fatty acids resistant starch, they are called physically inaccessible, they are called starch granulation, they are called retrogradation, they are called chemically modified starch. These things which are not digested in terms of becoming the monomers. They all moved as to the larger intestine. Still the larger intestine absorbs a lot of things from that. And then by the time it comes to the colon, it becomes joining with a lot of our chemistry in the body. It becomes chemically modified charge, which is called the short chain fatty acids, which is one of the major reasons for your diabetes. You can go and study all this in the net. And there are beautiful scientific videos they show.
Okay.
What is resistant starch and what is chemically modified starch.
So, a lot of people have this understanding that gluten is the reason for constipation, wheat eating population, having this constipation, but it's not the gluten, as you say. It is it is probably the maida.
It is the maida. It is not the gluten at all.
It's not gluten.
Gluten only gives you gluten allergy when you have a leaking gut. Okay. All that you need, whether it is rice or oats or corn or any grain food, wheat or anything, anything what you eat, what you need is exercise.
Right.
If you're going to be lazy, working in the desk, sitting all the time, not walking too much, no physical movements and things like that, you may be a master brain who can work and make the whole world decorative with your screens. But the decorative part of your health is deteriorating.
Right.
Simple.
That's a wonderful way to put it.
Yeah. Digestive stuff is based on your physical movements. The strong digestion. Yeah.
So keep your gut.
There are two things. One, it
exercising.
makes your digestive tract stronger. Two, it makes you burn a lot of energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So people who, South Indians for example, where rice is the staple food, so is wheat good for them? There's slowly a high influx of wheat eating even in the South, which was traditionally only rice. Now there's more of chapati. It's becoming almost a staple food. So is it good for rice eaters to move to wheat, or does it have any adverse effect at all?
Not like that. Like if you take the South Indian villages and all that. Even in the ancient days, there were a lot of food exchange was there from south to north or whatever it is. There were a lot of trading was going on in many thousands of years ago. A lot of our spices were going out. For example, we were using only pepper for our spice.
Right.
Hot spice. Only 400 years ago, the chili came from Latin American countries.
True.
As a plantation here. Till then, we never knew what was chilies.
True.
And chilies were not transported as a spicy component for our food. We used to only use pepper. Pepper as a phenomenal stuff, which we'll be covering it up in one of the episodes next. So there is not a great thing that the population in South or whatever it is, if you take the Indian subcontinent, that we were not used to wheat. We were used to wheat. Wheat gets transported here also. Rice gets transported there. In many form of transportation those days. But a phenomenal point here is those who are used to rice, they don't prefer to eat wheat day in and day out. Maybe once or twice a week they may have puris for their breakfast or dinner. Once or twice a week they can have chapatis. They would like to have chapatis and all that. Today you have restaurants which give you all country food. If you take Chennai, today in the last 20 years, almost all the foods have come in. You have Mexican food, you have Greek food, you have Portuguese food, you have Korean food, you have Japanese restaurants, you name it, it's French, Italian, everything has come in. So, not that it is, we are not used to wheat, but we don't prefer wheat. If you take Tamil Nadu, they do break their, monotonous food chain. They have breakfast, lunch and dinner, they have rice. Breakfast, they have some tiffin items and all that. We do have, nobody would like to change over from rice to wheat. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're not going to enjoy it. After 40 years of regular rice eating, I always find rice is better for me because my body is tuned to it, my body is adjusted to it, my body is memorized to it. So wheat is something which we do use in some form or the other. It keeps going in. You can never stay away from wheat, I'm telling you. That's what I started in the beginning.
Right.
In some form or the other, the wheat goes in.
Right. So one last question is with the modernization, as you spoke about, the industrialization and even the growth of wheat or the plantation of wheat, etc., even that is become more industrialized. So what can you tell us something about the contamination that's happening to the wheat grain itself, to the plant
Yes, same
crop
thing.
itself?
Same thing. What happened to the rice has happened to the wheat also because of your artificial fertilizer and pesticides. So we do have a lot of excessive nitrogen, potassium found in wheat through these fertilizers, which are artificial, which are not natural. It's one of the major reasons for your growth of diabetes mellitus in the human population.
And is there anything we can do about it?
At the moment, nothing.
Okay. So at the
There
moment,
nothing. We are stuck in a maze. Nature has to give a solution for it. How you know? The nature will make the human brain open up to think. It's opened it up. It will also give solution to the brain to come out with such solution. It will trigger some human beings, and that human being will come out with beautiful innovation where he will find the methodology to recorrect the mess created by the modern chemical scientific community. So wheat is the most predominant food.
right.
Wheat is the single largest carbohydrate food produced through agriculture
world.
compared to all the other commodities. And maida is not good, as you know, as everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
So whole grain wheat flour is always good for us. And there is no difference between rice and wheat with respect to diabetes. And gluten is a part of wheat, which is not the part of rice. So the rice, when you eat, you feel hungry very fast because digestion goes very faster.
Sure.
Wheat takes time.
Wheat takes time.
So make sure whether you eat rice or wheat, you don't get constipated.
Yeah.
That's important.
Thank you so much. So you summed it up
Thanks,
so
Vishaka.
beautifully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for spending your quality time. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you enjoyed this session. See you later.